What's up, everybody, and welcome to the Dope People Podcast, the place where I let you inside my world. And today, as I record this episode, I find myself standing outside in the sun. I'm in a forest next to this, ditch. It's like a big hole that was dug, and what's really interesting is that I found myself here yesterday and I meditated next to a tree that is, kind of dramatically, been cut off since yesterday. So I was here after lunch yesterday, and today it looks like they cut like 4 trees around that ditch, and they're all in the hole. And it's, I don't know, it could be sad, I guess, but at the same time, I'm really grateful that I got to meditate next to that tree yesterday, because we kind of shared a moment, you know? I was in a trance, and I just laid on my back there for a while, and I was flooded with new images that I hadn't seen before, and I was letting my mind bring me into new experiences. And it was a really beautiful gift to me. So, I don't know, I feel grateful that I got to share that experience with the tree I was laying next to. And today, well, I guess that's it. He passed. So I'm sitting next to the remnants of those trees that have bid farewell to their little friends who are going to live through the winter, I suppose. It's really interesting how nature goes and how we interfere with things, and I don't know. It's just part of bigger pictures. I don't know. Mysteries. Talking about mysteries, what are we going to talk about today? I was thinking about it before clicking record, like, do I have a topic in mind or anything like that? And the one thing that came up was the idea of the blank canvas, which I really love because, well, starting from there really leaves us lots of space for anything, as opposed to if we start with one idea, then you're kind of like stuck there, and it's a product of something you conceived in your mind prior to showing up. So it's not necessarily a flow of the present moment that is running through eternally. So it's a bit of a different dynamic, and I appreciate the dynamic of showing up as a blank canvas, so that I can let my voice carry whatever wants to come through. And I definitely set intentions before coming here that I can speak the truth that comes from my heart. And of course I can judge myself, and later on I can kind of I can observe personally when it seems like it's more of an egoic perspective, maybe, but all these judgments are very superfluous, and they don't matter whatsoever. I think that what matters is just that we give ourselves the permission to show up. And I believe and I hope that by me doing so, I give permission to all just to show that this is a possibility that is offered to us in every single moment, for us to express what we feel within ourselves, because it has value. It really does. I learned a lot about that through somebody. Her name, if you're curious, on Instagram is Leah Live Free. And Leah recorded a podcast a while back that is called Voice Activation. So if you search that on Spotify, I'm sure you'll find it. And it was so valuable to me. I learned so much about the power of our own voice and how healing it is on a cellular level. Did you actually know that your cells listen to you all the time? Like, whatever you tell them, they hear. Isn't that crazy? Like, we don't talk about that in school, like talking about cells having ears or something, and a brain and personalities, perhaps. I don't know. I'm just anthropomorphizing. Is that the word? When you give human attributes to something that is not human, but technically a cell is is what composes us. So I don't know, is the part of the whole the human, or is the human the product of the parts? Interesting questions. Anyway, back to Leah. When I listened to that podcast, one thing she said that was so special to me was that, first, the frequency of our voice, the tone of it, the way we speak, it holds specific codes for us to heal ourselves. I don't know if you've noticed, sometimes you talk to somebody and your pitch is different. Or, well, I notice myself doing it, especially if I'm teaching to younger kids. I would find that I would speak with a higher tone often, and it felt really less authentic. And I experienced that a lot in my last classroom, because I was teaching third grade, which is the youngest age I've taught. And it was really different being with such young kids, and it was kind of strange in a way, because my first year teaching, I was teaching grade 5 and 6 in Toronto, and most of my students, I mean, they were taller than me, and they were like young teenagers, and it's a totally different dynamic. And when I'm in that situation, I'm required to show up differently than how I would, I don't know if expecting is the right word, but how I kind of want to show up for younger kids. I feel like it's different. But of course, I'm learning as a teacher all the time, and I'm seeing what resonates better with the kids. I think that ultimately was what resonates better with the kids is our authenticity. Are we being true to ourselves? And I think that kids are the best at distinguishing whether we are authentic or not. When I think of my last classroom in Thailand, I had one student that was extremely special. He was an autistic kid, and he was, of course, super bright and super skilled and super gifted. And I don't know that I've met such a mirror of myself before that. So we're talking about a 7-year-old child here, and he was so loving. I want to take a moment to talk about him because he inspired me so much. Yeah. So, I'm just taking a moment to think about him. Yeah. What was funny about having him in my classroom is that he was so pure and innocent, as, children are. And he obviously sees the world differently than some of the other kids. He filters information in a specific manner that can feel very overwhelming at times, which is why sometimes it would be too much for him in the classroom. If it got a little bit loud, he would maybe yell and scream like, "Why is everybody yelling?" Which didn't really help the situation. But what was really funny is that he would mimic my behaviors. And that allowed me to see exactly where I was out of authenticity, out of tune with myself. And it became so transparent and so clear that that year teaching in Thailand, it was a beautiful experience, but I was also starting to feel a lot of tension within myself because I could feel where I was not being true to me in the role I was being asked to play, delivering a particular curriculum with particular sets of beliefs and ideas that I didn't necessarily share. And of course, we can bring our own twist to those ideas, and we can maybe share them and just expose the reality or the perspective that this is just one perspective amongst many others, and we are allowed to believe whatever it is that we truly believe within our hearts. And they don't have to all be the same beliefs. We just have to be true to ourselves. But yes, Emmet was a mirror for me when I was there teaching. A 7-year-old child was really pointing to me where I was out of alignment, and it was super useful, and it was such a gift. So I discovered through Leah Live Free that our voice holds the frequency that allows for our own cells to heal. Now, she is a medicine woman. She grew up on natural land with, I think, maybe indigenous people, or there's a lot of these practices in her family. I don't know her whole story. I can recall her sharing this. And I was blown away when I found out that, holy crap, my voice heals my body, which makes total sense because I also heard somebody say elsewhere that our tears hold medicine as well. The molecular structure of that water as we cry, it holds specific information for us to consume as the medicine. Like literally think about it. It's emotion, energy in motion pouring out of our body through our eyes. And this holds something for us. I just find it so fascinating. Wow, it's getting warm. It's so nice. All right, coats off. Oh my God, coats off in winter. I mean, it's not winter yet, but it feels a little bit colder. So the fact that I'm warm right now is so exciting. So I guess this is a reminder that our voice holds much more power than we've known it to hold. And it also reminds me that the way we've been conditioned, being in the classroom and being constantly asked, raise your hand before you speak, be quiet, listen, I don't want to hear you, you have to believe this, no, this is not the right way, you can do better, and then learning about history in the way that it's written in the books is also something else, a different topic that, I'm not a master of, so I'm not going to go there. I just mean to point out the fact that we have been conditioned to be quiet. And even now, I find myself in my personal life, I love connection, but I don't know, it's this paradoxical thing because I don't chase things. I just open myself up to receiving, and I remain sovereign in my energetic field. Those are intentions that I set for myself because if we cling on to things around, it makes us quite vulnerable. And so I practice, this is keyword here, I'm human, I practice detachment from things, outcomes, and everything that we may find stability in that could be taken away at any moment feels quite fragile. So why did I speak about that? It's a good question. About being quiet. Yeah. That's what I'm talking about. Me trying to find the idea that just flew. On a different note, the sky is such a gorgeous blue, and I wish that you could see it. But just please close your eyes and imagine a blue sky. Oh, that's what I wanted to say about my personal life and how I even find that some of the people that I would like to connect with on a deeper level, there's a bit of a wall up maybe, and I think it might be kind of a symptom of those habits that we have, those ways that we got habituated to, the ways of being so kept to ourselves and to not necessarily say what's on our minds. I feel like a lot of people who are making a lot of noise out there are the people who don't necessarily have the most useful things to share. But again, everything has purpose. Everything, light, darkness, it's all part of the show. For example, a person saying really stupid shit might trigger somebody who is going to be called into deeper opportunities for introspection and seeing why a particular comment would trigger them. So in that sense, somebody who says something that it isn't maybe as thoughtful can be extremely useful for anybody receiving it. So that's just a little perspective. But I'm just reminded of the power of our voice and finding our own tonality as well. How sometimes we speak with a more high tone, high pitch, especially if somebody's lying, like, or feeling uncomfortable. When you feel uncomfortable or a little, I don't know, there's different reasons for high pitch. But when I hear myself or somebody speak with more of a high tone, I wonder, just makes me wonder. Yeah, I definitely analyze myself a lot and everything. But I don't think there's anything really wrong with that. I think it's just genuine interest. I'm genuinely interested in life. So if you relate with that, we have that in common. Anyway, I don't think that those little episodes are necessarily have to be a certain length. I think that sometimes keeping it short and sweet is nice. So maybe we can just use that as a reminder that our voice holds power. This also brings me back to times when I was, again, in Thailand. I've done a lot of self-healing when I was there. Just a little reminder that when I got there, I was in a very, very low state of being. I was in a dark place, and I mean, it didn't look like it from outside, and I was very, I still had a glimpse of hope, of course, and it's something that hope is such a thing to cherish, because a lot of people out there, they don't have hope anymore, and that's when life gets really, really tough, because we all need something to look at. Yeah, we all need something to look forward to. And if we get to live in the light, that's where beauty is just surrounding us in all places. But for the people who find themselves in the darkness, we just need something to look up to look forward to, and that's what I call hope. And when I found myself in dark places, I was by myself, so you can talk out loud like I do now, but I wasn't really putting my voice out there. So, well, on this idea, there's, I guess, just the value of knowing now that talking out loud is healing for ourselves. And I would sing sometimes. Because I noticed that if I spent like 2 or 3 days being completely quiet, after a while it's like something needs to be expressed. And as mentioned prior to this episode, emotion is really just energy and motion. So we just have to find ways of expressing it outside of our bodies through any way that we enjoy, whether that be through movement, dance, stretches, running, yoga, through voice activation, humming. Humming feels so good because you can literally feel the vibrations and where it vibrates within your body. So what I enjoy doing is putting music on that I like and just humming to it. We all do it intuitively. So knowing that is super healing to ourselves, but also knowing that So about the dark place that I was in, I just wanted to say that I would sing to myself sometimes, and I would find the tonalities that felt best in my throat or inside my chest area, wherever it kind of vibrated, and that felt like it was really like clearing the blockages that were there. And then another idea when it comes to communication with our cellular structure that I would love to share now is I came across this channel on YouTube at one point, and it really resonated with me. And what I found out through watching these videos was that so if you're curious, it's this older man called Lee Carroll who channels an energy called Cryon. And Lee Carroll was talking about communication with our cells. And I was like, okay, well, this is interesting. Like, I never really talked to my cells all that much. Although, okay, little story time. When it comes to talking to ourselves, you know, we all have like incredible healing abilities within our bodies, and it's interesting what doctors will tell you in hospitals. For example, I had a lot of troubles with my thyroid gland, which is not surprising because, well, if you know, the thyroid gland is located right in the throat area, and it's what's in charge of producing hormones for our metabolism to function properly and bring homeostasis, balance within the body. So when I was 16 years old, I was diagnosed with it's called Graves' disease. Just means that your thyroid gland is producing way too much hormones. And then there were different healing modalities that we tried. I mean, I call it healing, but I don't think you can call it. It's more like putting plasters on an injury, on a wound. But we tried some medication that I had side effects to. So that didn't work. And then the plan B was to use a radioactive treatment on my thyroid gland so that it wouldn't work anymore. And that's what we did. I was 16. I didn't know much about the body at all, so I couldn't really make a clear decision about it. I just followed what was suggested to me by experts in the field, or so-called experts, you know, people who went through the education for that field as it was presented to them. And I get really excited when it comes to medicine, because the return of vibration as healing modalities is going to be a lot more mainstream than it has been prior, and that gets me so excited. But I had that radioactive treatment on my thyroid gland, and I was told by doctors that it would not work again. It's not going to work, and you're going to take medication for the rest of your life. And we all have heard of these stories of people being told, like, you'll never walk again, and what happens? The person walks. We all know this happens. Fuck, you go to, like, I'm getting excited because I watched a documentary about Joe Dispenza, a conference he was giving at some point, and the energy in the room is so high that people do spontaneous remission. Spontaneous remission is a possibility that is offered to all of us, and it's accessible through the quantum realm. Now, this may sound like a lot of odd words here, and I can kind of try and clarify that for the people who aren't familiar with this, but when I'm talking about the quantum realm, I'm talking about, go and watch Energetics 101, that episode where I explained how quantum physics work. The quantum realm is what is accessible to us through the space, the emptiness. So right now where I'm sitting, and there's trees and plants around me. There's all this space in between us, and even in the space, there's all these atoms, and between the atoms where the electrons travel, there is all that space, and there is more space than matter. There's about 99.9% space as opposed to 0.1% matter. I'm sorry if I'm off with numbers. That's how it is. But it's something like that. And so when we're talking about spontaneous remission, it's that we tap into the present moment with such intensity and emotion, and we are so present with ourselves and how do I explain this? Like yesterday when I was meditating next to the tree, I was in a trance. I don't know how much time went by, maybe 1 hour, maybe 2, I don't know. I was just flooded with ideas, with images, and I was just breathing so slowly. I was just fully present with my breath, so slowly that my breath pauses. And when it pauses, that's full stillness. And that is a very powerful state to be in. And in that state, your cells regenerate. They heal at a different pace, because there's a higher frequency being channeled through the body. And when you go to events that people such as Dr. Joe Dispenza hold, the energy in the room is so high that people kind of light each other up. And when you see a possibility for spontaneous remission, which is instant healing, just like that, it's like, holy crap, it really awakens us to the possibility that lies within ourselves. And that's why I associate that with the quantum realm, because the quantum realm is that space. And what is in that space is pure potential. It's infinite. It's the creativity. It's everything that we don't know. It's everything. It's everything held in the no thing. I know it sounds abstract, but we live within a mystery. So that's something to accept. Something to just maybe be in awe of, because, I mean, we are surrounded by beauty. So we don't need to understand it all. I think we can just look at beautiful things, beauty, and smile. That's good enough. But if you like to understand and you love thinking, as I do, well, those are some ideas for us to kind of play with. So, yeah, our bodies are incredible. They are truly incredible. And, I didn't finish that thought about the communication with ourselves. So when it comes to my thyroid gland, it works now. I did some practices. I was putting YouTube videos on for a while that were meant to, it said like, I just go on YouTube, thyroid, I typed thyroid healing frequencies, and I would listen to that as I get ready in the morning, just have that kind of echo into my space, and visualize light and healing happening within my cells. And what is really fascinating when it comes to healing and using our minds to do so is that whatever we see within our minds, if there's an emotion attached to it, it becomes a felt experience. It becomes an encoded experience within our bodies. So, for example, yesterday, the time I spent dreaming, literally, I'm seeing images inside my mind. I am feeling the emotions as intense as I would, whether they were in the material realm or not. So I'm literally encoding the quantum realm. And I've asked myself if it's, that's a funny perspective thing. I'm going to keep that one for another time, maybe. It's a bit complex now. But yeah, so I healed my thyroid gland that way, that's what I wanted to say about communication. Okay, so another side note when it comes to that, I did some research online, and I found a blog that somebody posted about healing the thyroid gland and how our body is constantly working to heal itself. It is constantly working to bring homeostasis, balance back within the body. Like, how incredible is that? Whatever we do, whatever choice we make, our body, our cells love us so unconditionally that it is always actively working for our well-being. Let that sink in. Our cells love us so unconditionally that it's always working for our well-being, whether we are asleep or awake, whether we are making choices that support it or not. It is going to communicate to us messages that are going to support us in our return to homeostasis. And yes, I know that there are people struggling with illnesses where, like autoimmune diseases, which is kind of like cancer cells within the body. The way that I understand autoimmune diseases is that some cells have forgotten their functions. They kind of lost track of like, what am I doing here? And maybe they're working too much or not enough. But I think when it comes to autoimmune, it's more often that they work too much, kind of like tumor cells. And on a grander level, this is kind of what's happening on our planet with some people who are kind of out of tune with themselves. And so we make choices that are not beneficial to the whole, and the whole is our planet. So it really comes back to everybody coming back in tune with ourselves and being like, what is my role? What feels good to me? And just by doing so, we are playing our part in this grand performance that we are a part of. And when it comes to that communication with ourselves, well, I remember reading that on the blog, how our bodies are always working for us. And I literally cried when I read that, because it actually sunk in for the first time that with all the choices I have made in my life that were not always good for my body, it never stopped loving me. And like, that's how real the experience was for me at the time, that the connection with my cells was established because I felt it. I cried emotion, realizing that, oh my God, there is an intelligence within my cells, and it has been working for me all this time, and I can support it. And not only can I support it, but I can talk to it. And I can not only talk to it, but I can direct it. I can direct it through visualization and the power of my voice and the power of my intention. But I need to be in tune with myself, because if I say something to my cells, but I believe something else, my cells, you cannot fool them. You cannot fool yourself. You cannot fool yourself. You may not know consciously that you're not being true in all aspects of self, but I think it all starts with the intention. At least setting intentions for ourselves to live truly and to be in alignment with ourselves is the first step. Just setting the intention that I want to be in alignment with myself. And so if there's any place that is not resonant to my truest self, let it be seen and let it be cleared, so that I can move from a place that feels harmonious within. And that is our greatest gift to the whole. So I hear an invitation here to just maybe start cultivating that relationship with ourselves. What are we feeling? What are we telling ourselves? What thoughts are we entertaining about ourselves? And what about our choices, our actions? Are they coming from a place of love? The things that we do, the things we consume, whether that be through food, videos, music, television, if you still watch that, all these things we consume, are they out of love? Do they make us feel good? If it does, wonderful. But let's just set intentions to treat ourselves with love, because we deserve it, and that is our service to ourselves and to humanity. I think that's all I wanted to say for now. Literally ourselves, like, it's crazy. It's just crazy. It gets me really excited. Gets me excited to continue cultivating that communication with my cells, because what I realize is that the intelligence within my cells is much smarter than what I think I am, and what runs inside my, what is encoded in my brain, because what is encoded in my brain is what I have experienced in this lifetime, through my conditioning and through all the experiences that I have been a part of and the impressions that were left on me. But my cells, they hold much more information, because, well, there's in my DNA, there's all my lineage, and there's memories of literally the beginnings of humanity. Like, we come from somewhere. These bodies, they are a product of something that has been formed and reformed and deconstructed and reformed again for lifetimes and lifetimes. So there's intelligence within ourselves that is just so much wiser than what has been encoded in our brains as what we call knowledge. And there comes the difference between knowledge and wisdom. Two very different things. So I'm learning to trust my cells, and I'm learning to live in full alignment with the messages they convey. And for that, well, I need to really hear them, and I need to interpret what they're saying. And that's a practice, because it's a new language. But we all have that power. Anyway, for now, maybe just say like nice things to yourselves. Tell them you love them. I think on that note, I'm gonna let you go. Thank you for being here. Thank you for listening. I appreciate you. I am honored that you gave some of your time to this recording. It's kind of like you hung out with me today in the sun, under the blue sky. I hope that wherever you find yourself right now, you can cultivate some peace and gratitude for yourself, for your breath. We're breathing. We're alive. Thank you for being here. Until next time, stay dope.
Gonna bust my moves, see what I find. Gonna get my drinks in now, lose track of time. Cause when you move like that, it ain't easy. I can't keep up now, take it slow. And back and forth, all the dance floor got hazy. And just before I let go, yeah, she said, you've catching noises for play. And we done fucked around. And maybe it's the DJ, addicted to the sound, and she said.